Many people think that they know music theory. In fact, many people may know quite extensive amounts of music theory. However, music theory as a concept is often misunderstood in the public perception. And it is made worse by people who learn a little about it without learning why it exists. I see College Board offer tests and courses in AP Music Theory, which explores the common practice of the classical era and nothing else. I hear people claim that Debussy broke the rules, or that you don't need music theory in order to be a professional musician. People often complain that the things that they learn in their theory classes will never be used when they play music. Worse yet, people will often use the little bit of music theory knowledge that they know in order to analyze a piece of music. And by analyze, I mean simply describe a piece of music, and they walk away not understanding anything about the composer's intention or the relevance of the piece. I'll talk more about this in future videos. The fundamental misunderstanding in all of this is not about the content of music theory. It's rather about the purpose of theory. You can think of theory in the same way that linguists think about grammar. To some extent, it is there to help someone learn to speak properly. But most linguists use it as a tool to explain the language, even the improper expressions of it. When we look at music theory, we have to understand that it is not one single set of rules to follow, but instead it's a process that we use to define what we see in music. Music, by definition, cannot break the rules, because there are no rules. I'll say that again. Music cannot break the rules, by definition, because there are no rules. Take a look at this article from the University of Miami. There are many good points being made here about what we classify as music theory, even if the point of this article is not to describe music theory, but rather to apply it to real life. However, this is just an example of a bad definition of music theory making its way into careless academic writing. The first statement of their definition is refuted by the second statement of their definition. Music theory is not the foundation for music, because it's the description of music. How can a house be built off of a painting of that very same house? I may be being somewhat pedantic here, but the point is this. We make grandiose statements about music theory and try to make it fit into a role that it was never meant to play. Music theory is incredible when we properly use it, but it's stifling when we don't. The definition given by the Encyclopedia Britannica is much more astute. Music theory is simply the study of concepts and compositional methods involved in the creation of music. It is a study. It is description, not prescription. As a result, you cannot claim that the study of any particular type of music is the ideal music theory. There are many music theories, as many as there are genres. Judging impressionistic music by the standard of common 18th century practice is as absurd as saying that Sing 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 by Benny Goodman is a terrible rap song. We have to let music be measured on its own terms. We analyze jazz music with jazz theory, and we analyze Baroque fugues with counterpoint theory. Before we ever begin to discuss the rules of classical part writing, we need to understand that those rules are a tool for writing in a particular style. Using this theory now is good for increasing understanding of music, but it is ridiculous to expect all modern composers to adhere to them. In more advanced theory, Schenkerian analysis is used, and it's a good way to understand the writing of many classical and romantic composers, but it is silly to analyze a pop song with it in order to determine if that was a plagiarized version of another song. And this actually happened in a real court of law. It's equally silly to ban music outside of a certain tempo range in order to promote nationalism in your arts and culture. And this also really happened in Chechnya last year. A little knowledge is a very dangerous thing. We often learn enough about something to consider ourselves experts, but not enough to realize how much there is still left to learn. When we learn music theory with its real purpose in mind, it promotes humility and curiosity instead of vitriol and arrogance. This is complicated and fascinating, not stifled and rigid. There is another aspect of music theory that's often less explored. That is, the philosophy of music. Why do we make it, and why do humans seem to be the only creatures who do? Why is it such a universal phenomenon among humans? What constitutes music? What does music represent? Greek philosophers are well known for asking these kinds of questions. Pythagoras connected ratios in the mathematical intervals to the movement of planets and to geometrical proportions. Ptolemy also saw music not as just sounds, but as connected to the human soul, or psyche, or as we say nowadays, psyche, and to the astronomical bodies. Whether they were onto something or not, we should at least continue to ask these questions. As Christians, we need to know how to respond when talk of vibrations and mysticism about music infiltrates our worship practices. And we need to be proactive in determining what is appropriate for worship by asking the same questions that St. Augustine did. Philosophy of music should be considered a major concern of music theory discourse, because how we understand music can affect our perception of spirituality and the universe. Too many churchgoers buy into the things online that compromise their beliefs, and much of it has to do with music theory. This topic is too large to tackle in this video, but I'll address it in future videos, as it has applications for apologetics, worship, and even, in some cases, the overall health of a church. Thank you for watching to the end. I know that this topic can be charged for many people, but I think the humility is the key to a healthy discourse. Please consider subscribing if this has blessed you or can bless someone that you know, and I will see you next time.